All right, everybody. Today we're going to be talking Nightmare on Elm Street, a new Nightmare on Elm Street coming out. So, very little is known about it at this point. And what I want to talk about in this is obviously the update on it, but then also my thoughts on a couple of or probably my favorite sequel of it, in addition to obviously the original one. And then what I kind of hope to see with the new one coming out and what I hope they don't do, right? So, I have my other phone in my hand just for some quick notes. So, People magazine reports that Paramount Pictures has obtained the U.S. rights to the original screenplay of 1984 horror classic A Nightmare on Elm Street. Obviously, this we know if you're a fan, it was written and directed by Wes Craven. Okay, so there's no title yet. There's none of that, and we're gonna see with that. Okay, so it's been taken over by his son, and I forget the other person or whatever. And so this part right here, the original screenplay of the 1984 horror classic. So it's going back to the original. Okay, now here's my thing with that. And let's just go ahead and jump into what I'm hoping to see from this because they've done some remakes of it, they've done some reimaginings of it, that type thing, right? And it hasn't, really landed, but we haven't seen something in a very long time. So this is very big news. And I feel like they said it's like a couple of years away. I'm filming this in 2026. So I felt like 2028 was a potential release date. I can't remember. Okay. So let me start by rewinding to my childhood. I'm 48 years old. Nightmare on Elm Street, the original Nightmare on Elm Street, was one of the most iconic, for me, groundbreaking horror films I had ever seen. And it sounds cliche, but it was what nightmares were made out of, right? Just the character of Freddy Krueger. It was amazing. The screeching of the stuff, his arm, all of it, right? It made me fall in love with horror. That, the original Friday the 13th, the original Chainsaw Massacre, all this stuff, okay? So going and like obviously we saw all the sequels and whatnot, and we'll talk about in a minute my favorite sequel. But that being said, when you start to get into reimaginings and revisiting and all this type of stuff, and yes, as an adult, it hits different. I get that. And any nightmare movie they come out with, I'm gonna go see it, or I'm gonna watch it on streaming. However they release it, I'm gonna go see it. Okay. Same with Chainsaw Massacre. Same with Friday the 13th. It's very nostalgic for me. Now I can remember, and I'm kind of going to refer to my notes here on the new Nightmare, not the new Nightmare. I'm sorry, but the one where they reimagined it and where Freddy had like way more of a backstory and that other dude played Freddy. People were beside themselves about this, right? And it was something new and different. So for me, looking at it from the perspective of I've seen, like I grew up with this or whatever, I was like, yes, this is different. And the origin story where it's going more in depth about what Freddy did, and we won't talk about that here, but if you know, you know, if you've seen it, you've seen it. I was like, okay, yes, it was a very different vibe than Robert Englund. Okay. And that's where I feel like the film struggles a little bit, the franchise, because he's on up there. I don't know if he would do another Freddy movie. I don't know if he would be able to, but for me and a lot of other people, Robert Englund is the only Freddy. I am completely open to other people playing Freddy. Will have to be right. The one person I see people talking about, and I cannot think of his name right now, y'all, but he played Pennywise. Okay, that dude. He to me is like almost a horror movie darling at this point, and I'm like, okay, I would like to see his take on Freddy Krueger. So, couple of things. When they did the one Freddy, and I can't remember which one it is, if it was New Nightmare, um, I can't remember which one it was. If it was New Nightmare or Nightmare on Elm Street, like the remake. But they tried to redo scenes. So, like, remember in the very original one where she falls asleep at school or whatever, and the body's being dragged, and then they redid it again? Well, again, I'm looking at myself through the lens of how that hit when I was young versus rewatching a remake of it. And of course, it's never the same. And so, what I'm not wanting to see in a new movie, and it depends on how the rights are and all this type of stuff, is literally just a remake. Okay, of well, this is our version. And it's almost like, well, this is just scene for scene, just a redo part two. Okay, and I'm like, I also don't want to see them get super experimental with it, and be like, well, we're gonna go way out here and try something completely new, and it's just way out there and it's different. And I don't want to see them get experimental with the casting of Freddy either. You're going to almost have to, because unlike other people in horror films, like if you take Jason, for example, multiple people play Jason, and sometimes it would depend on the body size and the movements, but for the most part, Jason wasn't talking. He was just this figure of, evil and, just whatever, dominating the campers and killing them and all that. Freddy had a personality and almost like this dark sense of humor that he brought with it. He was speaking, he was interacting, he was doing all these things, and that's like where the franchise kind of leaned into. Now, for me personally, some of that got a little bit over the top as the Nightmare on Elm Street series continued, and it was moving too far into the comedy aspect for me. So I would like to see them kind of go back to that origins of this is a nightmare. This is a man that is haunting the kids' dreams, but not make it so far out there that you're just like, really, this is another, what are we looking at here? You see what I'm saying? Okay. So that's what I hope to see them do. I just basically don't want them to get too experimental, but I also don't want them to just reiterate what we've already seen. Okay. And I imagine it's going to have to be somewhere in the middle. I don't know how it works. And I'm not a movie law person or whatever. I don't know how it works when they're like, well, we secured the rights to the 1984. So is that like we can only operate in the realm of that script and kind of reimagine it a little bit? And so maybe it will just be a little bit of a new interpretation. One thing I think that a lot of people had issues with the Nightmare, where we learn way more about Freddy and the things that he did to the kids and the parents and the backstory and this and that, is again for some of these original films where half of the horror and fear of it was you didn't know this person. Think Michael Myers and giving him the backstory like Rob Zombie did, where it's like Michael Myers was scarier just as this, what was it, the figure they originally called it, the figure or whatever, the shape, as this just anonymous killing machine. Freddy was never going to be that just because of what it was. It was such a unique thing of this person who could kill kids in their dreams. You see what I'm saying? But it almost is like it needs to stick with that. When they try and get too, oh, here's this backstory and let's flesh him out, let's make him a person, it moves away from the sheer horror of it. A little bit of that is good. And like we knew that something happened in the original Nightmare on Elm Street that the parents knew. The parents all did something, but it's like going way deep into that. And it was a little too much, right? So there's that. Okay. Now, let's talk about sequels. My all-time favorite sequel for A Nightmare on Elm Street is Part 3 Dream Warriors. Damn near rivals Part 1 for me. It's a completely different energy. We're on Part 3 at this point, so nothing will truly take Part 1's place for me with these franchises that I speak of. But Dream Warriors is one of those sequels to a movie that I just think was so damn good. It's very nostalgic. It was a moment in time, and the kills in it were awesome. Everything was just very unique, and it was teetering in the Freddy thing right before it was getting too hardcore into the comedy. But to me, part three was transitioning into that, where it was really leaning into the sarcasm and all of that. We'll talk about part two in a second. And so part three was starting to lean into that and really getting into that. But the kills were so unique in it. I watched again recently and I was like, yeah, I mean, everything about this, I just love the sequel. Okay, part two, I can remember watching that one, even being young, being able to tell this is different. This isn't lining up with the world that I was presented, meaning Freddy's kind of like interacting in the real world. Because I remember when I saw the what do you call it, the trailer, and Freddy jumps through the pool thing or whatever. And in my mind, I was like, wow, Freddy's like, he can come in real life. Like, oh my God, I can't wait to see it. But it was so out there. Now you can get into the whole thing about really that being this kind of, certain coded film or whatever. Because when I watch it now, I'm like, how did I not see this with this film? Okay, if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. But it holds up pretty good. I mean, there were some definite interesting kills in there and whatnot. But part three is my all-time favorite. Freddy versus Jason. Yeah, I was thrilled to finally see a Freddy versus Jason, but that was such a unique situation for both those characters. And, do I rewatch that one from time to time? I mean, I haven't seen it in years, but it's okay, right? But again, it was just such a different interpretation of the two characters. It just really wasn't my thing. But again, I'll watch anything that comes out. So that being said, let me know. First of all, I'm very curious. What is your favorite Nightmare on Elm Street? And if it's part one, like then pick a sequel if you had to after that. But then also, what are you hoping to see and not see in the remake or whatever you want to call it of it? So that is it. We're definitely gonna watch it and review it over here. So stay tuned. Let me know what you think. I'll see you in the next video.